This week, Dave Lewis from 1Password is with us to discuss securing AI agents in browsers. Then, in the enterprise security news, one big acquisition, two small fundings. Not all AI is bad. Deepfakes are getting crazy good. Make sure you log what your AI agents do so you can go back and figure out what the hell happened. Copilot prompt injection. NordVPN tries to pull a Jedi mind trick on us. Failure rate in AI adoption is a feature, not a bug. Using facial recognition to find Tinder profiles, a predictable squirrel story, and finally, we've got two interviews from Oktane 2025 for you. First, an interview with Connor Mulherin from TechSoup about cybersecurity in the nonprofit sector. This is a very interesting interview. I get to watch Mandy do it live. Then an interview with Mike Poole from Warner Enterprises, which focuses on building and maintaining robust cybersecurity culture. All that and more in this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. Do your end users always, and I mean always, without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. Check it out at securityweekly.com/1Password. Welcome to Enterprise Security Weekly and happy National Horror Movie Day. This is episode 430, recorded on Thursday, October 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining us is the Dean of Data Science and Knight of Neurodiversity, the Watcher of Data Center Waste, Jackie McGuire. How you doing, Jackie?
I am fantastic. I am.
That conflicts with everything you said before we pressed record.
I know, but I can't get on and be like, my day is a disaster and I can't wait to eat my feelings and chocolate later. That's not although that's part of what I do.
If you were to eat your feelings and chocolate later in front of a horror movie, what horror movie would it be?
Idiocracy.
Oh, that was a great pick. I was not expecting that. Kudos. Also joining us.
It wasn't intended to be one, but it's very quickly becoming one.
Context is everything. Also joining us is the Baron of Bloodhound, the Pirate King of PowerShell, Sean Metcalf. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good.
You know what I'm going to ask?
Certainly just good. Not fantastic, but good. Not having a crazy day like Jackie. So, and
you want to split a bag of lint truffles with me?
I will absolutely do that. My horror movie of choice would be Scream. That's just my all-time favorite classic.
Nice. Yeah, always a fun one. All right, quick announcement here, and then we'll jump into the interview. Don't miss InfoSec World 2025. I feel like it's next week. Is it next week? It is days away. It starts on Monday. October 27th through 29th at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. Cybersecurity pros workshops before and after. So those are probably starting here over the weekend. And endless networking. It's always a fun time. You can save 25% with code ISW25-SW at securityweekly.com/ISW2025. If you're already in the Central Florida area and you don't have any plans next week, it is always a fun one to go to. A couple thousand people there, lots of good networking, lots of good talks. All right. This interview is sponsored by 1Password, and today's topic is securing AI agents, particularly around browsers, the new AI browsers that we're seeing, which I have lots of questions about. So I'm glad that we have Dave Lewis, Global Advisory CISO from 1Password, with us today. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Your turn on the horror movie question.
Well, see, Idiocracy I see more as a documentary as opposed to a horror movie, so I have a little trouble with that one. And I'm going to give away my age, and I'd say one of my favorites would be The Shining.
Oh, wow. It's really good.
Classic.
I was a late comer to that. I didn't see it until after I read the book, which was like 5 or 6 years ago. I am a big Stephen King fan, so it took me a long time to get there, but yeah, really good.
Filmed not far from where I grew up in the Mount Washington Hotel in New Hampshire.
Yeah, in the
Very
mountains
nice.
of Colorado, right?
No, New Hampshire. It's in the
New Hampshire. I thought it was Colorado.
No, it's the
Okay.
Mount Washington Hotel.
Of course, it's New Hampshire. That's Denver's. Colorado's too far away for Stephen King's settings.
Yeah, it's always Maine, Massachusetts.
It's got to be a day's drive from Bangor, right? To be Stephen King. Yeah. So if I were to go with one, it would have to be Aliens. I think it's one of my favorites.
Great movie.
The original Alien, the second one, either one works for me. Forget all the ones that came after that. All right. Yeah, jumping into it today, so I kind of teased out the topic for today, and in preparation for this, I installed a couple of these AI browsers and I started playing around with them. And with some of them, I kind of feeling like, okay, this could have been a Chrome extension. I don't know why this is a completely separate browser, but yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff out there. Some of them just do things with the context of the page that you happen to be on. Like they understand that context. They can see the text on the page. And then others are building in actual AI features. Like my favorite AI browser, I don't think of it as an AI browser, is Arc on my iPhone. And any web page you're on, you can just pinch it like that, and it summarizes the page that you're on. And you can also say browse for me, and you give it a topic to research, and it'll browse a whole bunch of websites and build a special web page for you with all the results on it. I use that a lot for if I'm buying a product and I'm not familiar with the product space and I want a bunch of reviews summarized or something like that. Even car shopping, I used it for that. So, but there's all kinds of concerns around this, right, Dave? Like I keep seeing headlines where I can just take my website and put some prompt injection on there, and the browser will say, "Okay, I'll do that, no problem."
And that's just it. We're early days with this sort of technology, so we're going to see this sort of problem cropping up time and again. And it's frustrating because we've all been here before. We've all seen this before. Not the browser itself, but like this sort of like, oh, let's go really chase the really cool shiny thing, and then, oh, right, security. We forgot that part. And this is where, the conversation we were having before we started recording here, some of these browsers, you got to consider where they're coming from. You got to consider their point of origin, because it could have sort of unfortunate ramifications when they're getting access to, your system and potentially resources that you don't want to share.
Yeah, we just found out before we hit record here, thanks to Dave, that one of the browsers I installed today has heavy ties to Beijing.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it might be a complicating factor.
Not going to name the names, but it's not a company you've heard of before. If you
I have to admit, I hadn't heard of it before. Yeah. And this is where we have to look at things about, how are you managing credentials on your system? Because, these browsers are going to need access to that in order to make decisions on your behalf. So if you're booking a flight, whatever it happens to be, it's going to need access to those credentials. So you're going to have these agents making semi-autonomous decisions on your behalf with software that ostensibly has access to your entire system. So you want to make sure you're able to actually protect all of that. And also, like much to what we were just talking about, it's like, where'd that software come from?
Yeah. And I don't know. The only one I don't know about is Opera, but most of these that I've seen and that I've been looking at are Chromium based, which suggests to me that I or any employee working for you or your company can just install one of these browsers if you're letting them install stuff, and install that 1Password Chrome extension, right? Is it going to be that easy, or do you guys do something to enable it for certain browsers, or is it just going to work if it's a Chromium based browser?
Well, we do have something out of the box with browser base as one example, but as these projects, spin up, there will be, some sort of uniformity, especially with a lot of them standardizing on Chromium, that we would be able to have that ability to interact with those browsers and provide a way to, safely secure your credentials. And this is just it. It's like, it's early days. So there is a lot of this conversation that really needs to happen, because one of the things I keep seeing popping up, especially on the agentic AI front that we've talked about before, is that, these agents need access, and a lot of times they're going to be given access to things that you wouldn't necessarily give a human user. So you want to make sure that you're finding ways to manage those credentials in a safe and secure manner, figure out how to rotate secrets if they're necessary, and, making sure that you're not embedding any static API keys and things like that, or prompts within a page, because like you were talking about earlier, with prompt injection, this is a real big issue that is affecting a lot of different platforms. Like my favorite one is Echo Leak, which, to Microsoft's credit, was fixed before it ever hit the press. But it was such a rudimentary attack that it was actually kind of staggering. Send an email with some text with the font color set to white, and the agent executed on the instruction set. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. I was, a pen tester type back when the world was flat, but that would have been one of the first things I tried. I don't know. I'm kind of odd that way.
Surely this isn't going to work. Oh, I got all their files.
Yeah. And this is why we have to be very, very succinct on making sure that security is a part of the situation, because, most of these browsers have, the browser of itself has a lot of access to your system. And one of the questions you were saying is like, do we really need these browsers? And I think it's more of a trajectory with these companies that are trying to create a walled garden in a lot of ways, where they're getting people to use that as their default point of entry, because there will be revenue that'll follow on from this, not just from subscribing to the various services, but also, the ad campaigns that will inevitably follow.
Yeah. So, it kind of feels like hard coding credentials in scripts all over again, right? That's just not the way to do it. You want to have the script, make a call and pull that out of a what's the term for those kinds of tools?
Like just in time.
Yep.
Yeah, like the DevOps credential stores. I can't think of what they're called. But you guys have one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have Vault. We also have a secret manager, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, secret manager, Vault. Yeah, both of those work. So is that kind of the same situation here, where we need to think about the design here, where the agents shouldn't be handling the credentials directly? They shouldn't be dipping their hand inside my 1Password vaults. They should instead be calling 1Password to do something, and maybe there's some human interaction here, like there at some point where I approve it, or maybe I get a push on my phone or something like that.
Yeah, like you want to look at ways you can isolate the storage on your system so that, the browser doesn't necessarily have direct access to those credentials, and you have some way to tokenize them or what have you, and pass it to whatever needs it for that time, and having those tokens being of a limited lifespan, because you don't want to have something that's going to live on in perpetuity, because obviously if it gets compromised, you're going to have a bad day for sure. And when we look back to all the stuff like, Jeremiah Grossman and Matt Johansson did all that research on cross-site scripting along with Hansen. They all did this amazing work. Arsnake. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, I need more coffee.
We can call him Hansen. Yeah.
They call him Hansen, whatever. Yes. But the amount of work that they did that I was able to, utilize in my own environments, it was just staggering how often that sort of stuff worked. And I do worry that we're going to just loop it right around again and have all of these, cross-site scripting, iframe, all the rest of it pop into the storyline. So this is where we have to make sure that, our sensitive data is kept sensitive, is kept protected, making sure that our credentials are stored, making sure our API keys are not swinging in the breeze. If I had $1 for every time I found one on GitHub, I'd have a nice vacation at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that even the largest enterprises in the world have done. There was a handful of those full session backup, full machine backups with unhashed session tokens and API keys. And yeah, it's something
Microsoft again.
I didn't say it.
It's not our fault.
Yeah, well, and I think,
It's
I was just thinking about, we've talked a handful of times over the last few episodes about the Anthropic report on how adversaries are using AI and the fact that it's like this reconnaissance on steroids and they're using it to be able to find attack vectors. And if you think about that and you know that you have one of these AI enabled browsers where if you get into somebody's endpoint and you can get access to this browser, there's a whole bunch of different extensions that open in a browser, right? So you can send a mail to, you can send there's a lot of different ways that you could potentially weaponize something against one of these browsers.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. And these browsers, I mean, yes, they are trying to harvest you in there so you can get your information to then ultimately train their models. So yeah, you have to take a moment of caution whenever you're using any new software, especially this sort of software where you are ostensibly the product.
Well,
I'm going to
these
uninstall
browsers,
that browser now. You guys can keep talking, but like it's
Adrian's
bothering me now.
I'm not done copying your directory. Hold on a second.
Adrian's the friend that you have try the food from the sketchy street truck first.
I am.
Well, with these browsers running Chromium, doesn't that kind of at least level them up to a foundational basis so that they're not relearning sort of the history of what browsers have identified over the past number of years of what's bad versus what's good? So at least with that, there should be some level of parity with a modern browser. But the thing that we're definitely seeing already, and I looked, I mean, OpenAI released Atlas recently this week, and yeah, a couple days ago, and there's already a list of 30 things that they've fixed. So there's definitely some learning that's going to come out of this. What do you think? I mean, how do you see this coming together? I mean, obviously we're going to be learning the same things over and over again because it's now scanning what's in the web page and then performing some action and potentially following some link that will tell it to do something. Where do you see this going? Is this going to be a situation where websites will take over the browser or redirect the agent to do something on their behalf versus the users? What do you think?
Well, when we take into account the Echo Leak example, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility that we'll see in that same sort of behavior affecting browsers. And you really need to treat your browser assistant as its own principal with a distinct identity. So think of it as an intern, I guess, for want of a better term, that is doing instructions on your behalf. The thing is, if you're not training that intern on how to interact with these sites in a safe and secure manner, you have that real potential of bad things happening. So you want to figure out a way to, bind every agent action to initiating human origin, like making sure that you have proper delegation in place. Because otherwise, like you're saying, if you go to a website with embedded code that it gets it to execute against it, you could have, a very difficult day. And on top of that, you want to look at, with these browsers having the access they do to your system, they could quite literally be used as a bridge to gain access to your data that's resident on your system, even locally. So there's all these different things that we've been dealing with for years that we really have to be cognizant of, because there is a real real potential for us playing, oh, hey, we've seen this episode before yet again. So making sure that, security is embedded right from the very get-go is really basic table stakes. And Sean, to your earlier point about, forking off of Chromium, all of a sudden you have to make sure that not only are, you're staying on top of those patches, but with every change that you make to your particular fork of that code base, you could be introducing a whole new host of issues. Like if your AI agent is into the Chromium and it has a problem, then all of a sudden things are different because it won't have the same security issues that, say, Chrome proper has, or the iteration that's put out by another organization.
When you get to backport those Chromium patches as well, every time Chromium changes something, you're going to be trying to very quickly catch up.
And that's one of those things that I don't think people really wrap their heads around, because like one vendor that I found a vulnerability with, I'll remain nameless, it took them 18 months to patch their software because it was a language library that I was able to access and do interesting things to. But that language library was, for every different iteration of their software, was in a separate library. So if they had a product in every language on Earth, there was that library in every different iteration. And that same library went all across their entire product suite. So they couldn't just fix it in one code repository. They actually had to go into each individual code. It took them 18 months to repair all that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And that was a major software company that should have known better.
Yeah, it just, I think, emphasizes the need to get this right in the design and architecture phases, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, so something else I noticed about these browsers that I wanted to throw out there is that some of them, you can create scheduled tasks in as well. So there are ways to have some of these browsers not just actively doing stuff while you're using it. Like I'm on a web page, I want it summarized. Like that's a very basic function that most of them do. But when I'm sleeping, to prepare for my next work day, here's a list of tasks I want you to carry out. Maybe you're doing some research, pulling news stories. If I'm a journalist or something like that, doing a lot of that manual work that I might do after I wake up and I'm there with my cup of coffee, but that can be already summarized and, listed and ready to go maybe. But yeah, if that requires logging into stuff, or if it breaks, if you suddenly get logged out of something, like, does it have the ability to log you back in? Those are some questions. I don't know the answers to that. I don't know how that works with these.
It depends on the vendor you're dealing with or the company you're dealing with, because Director AI is a great example of that, where you can build out these type of process flows so it can operate on your behalf. And having an agent that can go out and do this sort of thing, collect that information for you in the morning, and you come in and you sit down and here's your summary for the day. That's a logical business case. But in a lot of cases, it needs to be able to access various different resources. So you have to worry about, system-centric security, like prompts, tools, data, workflows. All of that is still in scope. And we have to, even though the Great Oz commands it, we do have to look behind the curtain and figure out ways to, approach security, because we are still in the mad rush of AI. We haven't got to that trough of disillusionment yet, but we will ultimately get there. Yeah. And we just have to make sure that we are doing $1 up front or 10,000 on the back end. It's like, how do you want to play this?
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting day when we get there. It's, the browser I just uninstalled, priced by how many AI things you do. You got in the free tier, you got 1,000, and I imagine every time you ask it to do something, or if you ask it to do something agentic, maybe it uses up 16 of them or 20 of them, depending on how many different prompts it has to execute to complete your task. But yeah, it's a big discussion argument I'm having online in a lot of LinkedIn threads, where a lot of people are assuming that the price is going to go down over time. And I don't know. I didn't see cloud pricing go down over time. I didn't see the price of electricity go down. Like there's all kinds of things, like the price of Netflix subscriptions didn't go down over time as more people used it.
And that's just it. Like the price will go up, but I think with the browsers, that the token approach of, use this many tokens for this many functions, I think that will fall away when they finally wake up to the idea that, ad revenue will really supplant the need for the tokens. I think they're going to use that for the foreseeable future, in that they're getting built out, getting people to see that as a tool that they have as an indispensable part of their daily lives. And once they get to that point and they start introducing ad revenue into it, I think that's where we'll see that pivot.
Yeah. Ad revenue.
It sounds like in a perfect
where it's
world,
going. Sorry, Sean.
Everything goes to ads. It's all right. In a perfect world, it sounds like you would be able to have certain agents that are in the web browser, and each of those agents, you send it off to do something like go ahead and book a flight, go ahead and do some research for this thing that I want, find it at the cheapest price, and then buy it. It sounds like in a perfect world, that would then interact with something like 1Password, and then be able to pull the current credentials for that site, use it for that period of time, and then it would either access would expire, or it would check that credential back in, and then maybe that 1Password or other password plugin would then reach out to the site and change the password to something that the agent itself doesn't know, similar to what we'd use in enterprises. I think that's really where we'd like to go. What do you think the timeline on something like that is actually going to be?
But wait, there's more. The timeline is much shorter than you might imagine. It could be as early as December, probably more realistically January. But we do have a tool set that actually addresses exactly that.
Cool.
For what it's worth, I wouldn't mind the ad revenue aspect if I could keep my data encrypted at the edge. And so what I'm hoping is eventually we'll get to a point where they push the model, the algorithm, 1Password is protecting my data, and I can hit yes, I want to personalize this. And then on the edge, it uses the algorithm you were pushed and your encrypted data to personalize whatever it shows you, but never actually has to deliver that data back to the company who's trying to personalize their ads. Because I love targeted ads. I buy so much stupid crap that is targeted to me on
Facebook
Instagram.
is so good at it. Instagram is so good. It snipes me all the time.
Yeah, and people are always like, where did you get, like, I wear weird clothes, and I'm like, Instagram. Like, Instagram knows every single thing about me. And I like that. I just don't want somebody at Meta to be able to go search for that data at will. So if I can create some token at the edge that has my data in it and then have some level of access control to whether an algorithm can access that data or not. And I think Apple's done something a little bit like this. Google lets you to turn off personalization, but we need something like that at scale because I think that, and I don't think we're going to get there because companies decide it's the right thing to do. I think we haven't passed a privacy law since 1988. So it might be time to do that.
I don't see that happening in the US for a while, but that's just me. At least not for the foreseeable future. But for 1Password, I should clarify, we protect the credentials and any data that you store within the enterprise password manager as an example, but we wouldn't be protecting the data resident on your system. So I want to make that clear delineation that we.
Yeah. But just gives me enables me to control credentials to all of my, because I imagine you're going to have different pools of data, right? That are controlled by different platforms and then need to access them all. Cause I'm not going to give my Instagram data to my employer to personalize something for me there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Google's tried a few things over the years. They had Flock, they were trying, and the idea was you would get dropped into a bucket of people with similar interests. So you personally would not be able to get pulled out of that. It's kind of like a one-way valve you get membership in this bucket. And advertisers can only treat you, they just get the bucket, and just IDs that don't map back to you. So they can advertise towards you without connecting it to your name, to your identity. But yeah, I think it was around for a year and they killed it or 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, with these browsers, we have to make sure that we're looking at them as agents that are running on our behalf, right? And the principle of least privilege has to apply. Per origin permissions, explicit consent, looking at what data it does have access to. Can it listen to your mic? Can it check your video? These are things that we really have to get a good grasp on, make sure that they're being done in a safe and secure manner because, reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so one thing I didn't mention here, that's we're talking about AI browsers, and before AI built into the browsers came out, something we were seeing a little bit of was RPA for AI agents, right? There are certain websites where there's just not an API, old travel websites, even stuff like Instagram and LinkedIn, you can't get on LinkedIn and scrape in data without having credentials, without being able to log in. And the number of people that work for a company, I looked, that's not in any of their APIs. You have to be looking at the web page to get that number. They intentionally don't expose that in APIs. So there's all these use cases where, and I think some of these, I know OpenAI has one and Anthropic has one, where basically it's, I don't know if it's a model or if it's a software product, but basically it can just use a computer like a human does. Like it can move the mouse, it can click on things, it object recognition on a user interface, and perform tasks as a human would, like for, again, say you're in an OT environment or something like that, and you want to try and automate something using AI, and there's no API.
Yeah. But can it answer the robot test?
Good question. And to RPA, we have to be very clear that RPAs are very fragile. So even if the data changes slightly from what is expected, it will break.
1 pixel.
Yeah. 1 pixel, everything's out the window. So this is why we have to have, systems that have the ability, at least level 2 from a agentic AI perspective, in that it can have, level 1 being the guardrails or the lane assist for your car, as an example. And the next level up would be, having at least some awareness so that it can adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to, kind of half looking forward to, half dreading what comes in December or January, seeing what the next step is here. These products are getting released fast and furious. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Make sure you visit securityweekly.com/1password to learn more. And we do have a few articles in there specifically discussing 1Password, and like Perplexity Comet is one of the browsers that 1Password now works in. And stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to cover the news. Imprivata delivers simple and secure access management solutions for healthcare and other mission-critical industries to ensure every second of crucial work is both frictionless and secure. Imprivata Enterprise Access Management delivers simple and secure access to any app from any device with single sign-on, multi-factor, and passwordless authentication. The solution streamlines workflows, reduces password fatigue, and ensures seamless access for every identity. Learn more about how Imprivata is redefining secure access at securityweekly.com/Imprivata. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW430 if you want to follow along as we go through the news, or for links to the articles that we will be discussing. All right. Not a whole lot going on in funding and M&A, but as usual, the vibe check is pretty interesting. I tried to ASCII art the equivalent of the graphics that he uses in the newsletter. Mixed results with the pluses and minuses there. But the vibe check question was, what level of AI governance oversight are your customers and third parties requesting? And the winning answer was some ask about AI practices in their RFPs. About half that many submissions, they got actively demanding AI governance documentation and occasional questions, but not deal breakers. And then almost no responses to customers don't ask about our AI governance. So it sounds like everybody's asking at least somewhat, but yeah, it's all over the map.
They're probably asking because they want to know themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard the occasional, like, you're not allowed to use AI in relation to our data at all. Like, that's a contractual requirement. And that gets sticky with, like, okay, we're not, but we don't know if our third party is, right? Yeah. Our third party might have a fourth party situation where they're using AI somewhere, and we just don't have that level of visibility into our third parties. So it'd be hard to be super strict with that. You can only guarantee as far as you can see.
Yeah, I'm always just shocked and horrified at the lack of due diligence most even extremely large companies do on their vendors. When you respond to an incident and you're like, oh, either like you asked for a SOC 2, you just didn't read it, and this issue was fully disclosed in this
Yeah.
SOC 2, or
Yeah.
like, or or just you never even asked. And I mean, I think you want to think that a company has procedures and things like that, but um, I'm always surprised, even myself, at the level of access of information I get from companies without more processes in place. And so, yeah, I think,
Mm.
I don't know. I just think there's nobody doing it really well. And hopefully, automation and AI is something that can help solve this in the, automating contracts and identifying the
Yeah.
information a vendor could possibly have access to and enforcing some type of policy. Because I think it takes a long time to get legal to write a policy. And if you need a different one for every vendor, that just doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that's a great use case for it, I think. The stuff nobody wants to read, I mean, for the consumer, the user agreement that you're agreeing to,
Yeah.
the
Like the
license agreement.
EULA. Give me the
Yeah.
TLDR on that. Tell me
Right.
exactly what like I signed into my hotel's Wi-Fi, stupid, right? But just out of curiosity, because they're like, oh, there's no password, just click accept. So I pull up the terms and it's like, all your data's unencrypted. We can monitor whatever we want. Like, yeah, it's nobody reads that.
Yeah. Yeah. Contracts, RFPs, SOC 2s, all that stuff. You can have something just read it for you and pull out the interesting stuff,
Yeah.
right? Just make a list of the things that you'd be interested in seeing if it were in there.
Yeah.
And
Well, and incorporate those things into to your statements of work, and make sure that, the vendors, you can customize contracts based on the data they have access to. And I think this is going to become even more of an issue, right? Because if we're not going to see privacy regulation at the federal level, we'll probably continue to see it at a more granular level that makes it really hard to control some of this stuff. Because if you have to handle data from a company you're working with differently in California than you do in Colorado than you do in, Wyoming, that makes a huge difference in contracting. So maybe we'll catch up. Maybe that's one of the good uses of AI. I'm
yeah,
optimistic today.
yeah. Yeah. And it's, again, I think the big gap here is going to be like, you actually need to go and set that up and you need to use it. And just people are just so lazy about this kind of stuff. Like it's not, I mean, the people who are already doing a decent job of this will go use the AI and spend less time doing a decent job of it. But the people who are just completely missing it, like what you were describing, Jackie,
Yeah.
they're not going to fix the problem with AI because they're not spending any time on it, right?
Yeah.
They're just ignoring the problem altogether. So yeah. The first funding here, I had not heard of this company before. Conceal, and this is not my words, but from the press release, the pioneer and browser native security service edge, and proxyless zero trust network access.
Bingo. I have no idea what that
it
means.
says it works with any browser, which suggests to me maybe this is a Chrome extension.
Allows for covert threat intelligence gathering. Maybe
in
that's
browser
why you haven't
security.
heard of them.
So I did a webcast with Push Security not too long ago, and they're calling what they do browser detection and response. So we're seeing a lot of this, and I suspect this probably. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna guess that it's a Chrome extension.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've also we've had Island on a couple times, and they're like a Chromium based like secure
Yep.
browser. So I think there's a number of companies trying to tackle this from different
Yeah.
directions. And Island has the ability to, if it senses you trying to send data to an unapproved AI platform, it'll redirect you to one of the approved ones, and like kind of trying to protect you from yourself. Which is probably where we need to go, right?
That could be
To
useful.
protect
Yeah.
people from themselves.
I'm going to try out one of these AI browsers and see if it can answer any of my questions about this company.
Yeah, I mean,
Perplexity
it was a
Comet.
somewhat slow week and our last couple weeks, and I'm not sure if it's fiscal year resets for a lot of companies. Right around this time of year, budgets are being redone. I don't know if a lot of funds have spent down in the early stages of the cycle and are waiting for next year to start deploying additional rounds, but it's been a busy news week.
I'm going to do something I don't normally do. All right. So yeah, I asked it, does this company use a Chrome extension? Yeah, because I was scrolling here, not finding any answers to that question, and says it does.
Nice.
I was actually hoping to do an internet search for Conceal Browse. The centerpiece of Conceal's browser native security service edge.
It says any browser. So do they have extensions for all of the different browsers?
You only need one extension because it's all Chromium based. All browsers are Chromium based these days.
Yeah.
So you only need to build one extension. Okay, I'm clicking that. It's not working. It's just a simple.
Is that another single point of failure that we're overlooking in the market? Is that if something happens with a shitty Chromium patch, half the browsers in the world are going to implode?
What was it called? Conceal Browse. Okay. Maybe you have to
covert.
It's interesting. Like usually it's in here. Let's just look for conceal.
I feel like maybe covert doesn't mean what I think it means, because I also found out that you can carry out a covert military operation and then tell the news about it. And I thought that not telling people about it is what makes things covert.
It's like a press release. Like it's super, super secret until the moment you want everyone to know about it. So it's very
like we authorized a sneak attack sometime in the next 3.5 days, but nobody knows about it.
If you're talking about it in the future, you're not using that word correctly.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that was fun. That worked. Okay. Cool.
Nice.
So yes, it looks like everything is dependent on a Chrome extension, like the browser native DLP they're doing, the secure web gateway, CASB, ZTNA. So, I mean, they must be, maybe there's an agent that goes along with it too. If they're creating IPsec tunnels, I don't think you can do that with a Chrome extension. Maybe I'm wrong.
And Conceal, if you're interested in sponsoring our podcast, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
For a low fee, you can come on and explain this to us in our audience.
Sponsor an episode or two and you can come tell us all about this.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. Totally seriously. It would be interesting to be able to ask some questions about this and dive into it a little bit more. We also have Glide Identity, which is an authentication and identity verification platform. Seeing a lot of those, and identity verification still looks like it's really kind of difficult these days. That's a tough space to be in, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, if between the Discord breach, there are a lot of third-party identity verification services that have been breached in the last, year and a half, and just the nature of the data that they collect, and they're just such high-value targets that I have to believe that even just setting up a security function for something like that costs millions and millions, because we've seen some pretty serious compromises of these types of companies in the last handful of quarters.
This looks like it's B2B to C. So, they're talking about customer-friendly payment process and stuff like that. So sounds like something someone would buy to make their shopping cart like flow more easily and prevent more fraud at that point. Interesting. Veeam, the backup company, I think they're a backup company, acquired security for $1.7 billion. I think we had security on once. Never a fan of the name because it's just security with an I on the end instead of a Y, which has to be confusing for people. I don't like stuff that's difficult to Google and to figure out. But
well,
I guess
Google's security offering is difficult to Google, so
it is. It really is.
Like renaming your offering Google Security Operations. And you're like, you literally can't Google that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a company made a consumer security product that was like parenting controls on your home network called Circle. And the name of the company was Circle. And it was so hard to find. It was so hard to pull up their website. And because their website was something weird like circle.media or something like that. It had a weird TLD.
I think there has to be a happy balance, because then you have the companies that like, and I shouldn't say this since I worked for one, that drop vowels and, it needs to be at least somewhat pronounceable, and there are only so many cool names for companies, so.
All right, I'm going to use the browser again on this one.
I can't wait to see Adrian's machine get hijacked in real time.
Well, so it's something I didn't bring up in the previous conversation. I actually give a talk on the term we came up with. I actually asked for a bunch of advice on LinkedIn and Mastodon for this, was cyber scouts. And the idea is you want to have some security folks that have a little bit more risk appetite and will gladly try out new stuff and put themselves at risk so that they can tell everybody else, yeah, don't do what I did.
Yeah. Like FAFO team.
Yeah. I think it's important to have, like we need a certain number of folks like that in security that are going to go out and tell us where, where the holes are, where the cliffs are, where not to, where it's not safe to play.
I thought that's what your regular developers are for.
I mean, they will, they just don't give nice structured feedback though, right?
Yes.
Like, they will perform this function.
Yeah.
So they're DSPM. Security is a DSPM company.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because Veeam does, backup and recovery and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. And Rubrics, is that the name of the company? The other data backup one? Mm-hmm. Am I getting that right? They acquired Laminar, which was a DSPM. So maybe that was part of the rationale picking this up. Oh, our direct competitors are also picking up DSPM. Because it sounds like Rubrics has had a lot of traction with Laminar.
Yeah, well, and DSPM's coming up a lot more frequently too, in terms of giving access to data to agents and things like that. So it's I feel like I hadn't heard it for a while. Then all of a sudden, the last 6 months, all of a sudden everybody has or is building some type of DSPM solution, which is good.
Well, it's kind of like an ISP, right? Like ISPs are always trying to layer on additional services on top of just giving you internet access, right? Like what else can we do for you? So a lot of ISPs have security products and offerings. So it makes sense. Like if I'm the ISP for your data, I also want to, have stuff I can add on there, security modules and packages I can add on.
Yeah.
All right. I'm liking this. Actually, particularly for this use case, for going through the news where maybe I haven't had time to read through all the stuff that I put in here. This can make it look like I actually did more prep.
Engine.
Despite staying up till 2 a.m., you'd be shocked to find I have not read some of these articles.
Yeah. No, to kids. I read the ones that I sent. No, I think I actually read them all this week because we didn't have as many as normal. But
yeah,
I also forwarded one of Sean's to one of my hacking groups because not that anybody's surprised about the VPN one we'll get to, but yeah, good stuff this week.
I'm liking this. All right, I'll hand it off. Sean, you've got 3. Pick one of your stories. Let's jump there next.
Well, Jackie said VPN, so let's jump into the VPN one. So
let's do it.
This group, they went through, and it's actually in another language. I believe it's German. But from Kuket's IT security. So we translate it to English. And basically they put app recording on a couple of different VPN providers on the app itself. And they identified that with NordVPN, NordVPN said that they didn't have any trackers, but they noticed that Google Firebase was part of that, analytics around that, as well as the marketing service provider AppsFlyer was part of it as well. And they have some details on their site about what they've identified from that. So it's just another reminder that just because the VPN is advertised or you see an influencer talk about it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that people need. VPNs are not something that is required in a modern computer to surf the web safely, so to speak. So I think that this kind of just shows that what is the VPN getting? They're getting logs of where you're going, what you're doing, and a bunch of stuff that they could sell.
Providing the safety that they claim to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because that's it. Like, man in the middle is just not how stuff is happening these days, right? Like nobody's sniffing your traffic on the coffee shop Wi-Fi, right?
It's been a while since Fire Sheep, and the other ones where Facebook and others were not using now. SSL TLS, and that's been solved for many a year now.
Yeah.
So what I found interesting here was they asked Surfshark also. Surfshark owned up to it and said, yeah, we've got trackers. But NordVPN denied it. And that's most of this article, right? Is them just calling them out, saying, hey, here's our receipts.
Exactly.
And I think if you think about some of the most common reasons people use VPNs, you probably don't necessarily want somebody tracking the things that you're doing while you're using a VPN. So be careful.
And I don't know if that's, outwardly concerning or like concerning if what do you think about that, Sean? What is like a likely scenario here, that with them collecting this kind of data, what would you be concerned about?
That's a great question. I mean, the data that's being captured is, any VPN can capture the DNS and information about where you're going. So that's something that's pretty remarkable if you were trying to avoid being seen by, say, a country or by an ISP, which is doing the same sort of thing. So a VPN can shift that, but basically you're shifting the responsibility of keeping your web browsing secret, more secure. And the very fact that they are using trackers in the VPN system on the app means that they are doing more than what they say that they're doing, which is probably more concerning than anything else, because they can capture additional data about you and what you're doing, things that you normally wouldn't think about. So you think you have the security of a VPN that's protecting your privacy of your browsing habits and what you're doing, and therefore they are tracking things that you would not want them to be doing in the first place.
Yeah, and they also start tracking before consent. So when the thing pops up that says, do you want to allow cookies, they actually are reaching out to 2 different Google databases, as well as I can't remember, something Fly database. And so they've already transmitted data. So even if you decline consent,
they're
they've
still
already
tracking.
got data. And there are unique
and they continue tracking after you decline consent.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there are also unique identifiers to devices. So for me, one of the issues here is that, again, you have these companies like, you're like, all right, they're only collecting a few breadcrumbs, but there are companies like Palantir out there who will take all those little breadcrumbs and give someone, whether that be a government, a private company, will give someone a piece of bread that tells them everything they need to know about you. And so, yes, and like I was saying, there are people who use DNS for adult reasons. They use DNS for content pirating reasons. They use, not DNS, use VPN. They use VPN for things that are, I've got DNS on the brain today. Use VPN for things that are not always things that they might want tracked or sent to Google or associated with the UUID for their phone. So just.
AWS has had DNS on the brain this week also. The other thing that I found interesting was using VPN services for buying tickets, like airline tickets or buying a hotel at a discounted price. If you actually use a VPN that takes you into Europe or it takes you into Asia, you can often find tickets at lower prices, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That's that tinkering, right? The
that stuff gets really crazy. Yeah. Let's see here. So there's a Register article in here about the Curl project, which I found, again, kind of hopeful, by Thomas Claiborne here. And they're focusing on the Curl project. So the maintainer, Daniel Stenberg, basically saying, yeah, I get a lot of AI slop. I get a lot of crap. But also I've gotten some amazing stuff when someone that's experienced at bug hunting is using an AI tool to do that bug hunting. The results are amazing. When somebody who doesn't understand software or fuzzing it or bug hunting uses an AI tool, yeah, the result is a bunch of slop, right? So it makes sense, but it's encouraging, right?
I think this goes back to the whole, you can't replace people with things. You can empower them, and the concept.
You still need the bullshit filter that comes from up here.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that that's ever not going to be the case. And one of the comments I had made about it's one of the other stories we're covering was just when you say as a human, what the hell does that mean? Human, that there are how many billion, almost 8 billion people in the world, and every person processes things differently. If you've been through the transition of learning math the traditional way, 20, 30 years ago, and then your kids learning Common Core, you're like, these are two completely different ways to see math. And now, and there were the people who push back against it. I freaking love it now. Because once you go through the process of learning it, it makes it so much easier to do math in your head, to estimate, to double check your answers, all of those things. But those are two dramatically different ways to see numbers. And humans are like that across the board. So I don't know, just the thought that there's one way to do something, or there's one source of truth, or like that just doesn't exist in so many cases. We want to believe that it does. And so when you're trying to talk about, we're just going to do things one way and have this AI do it, it just doesn't manifest the way people think it does, because you need adaptable people to be a translator between binary code and very quantum people.
And even at the enterprise level, each company is also unique in some of those same ways. I often talk about the customization tax, where a company can only build a product so well for a general audience. They can't tailor it for your specific company. So you have to do that extra work to do it. And I've often seen cases where something one company would consider a low, or like they don't even care about it, another company considers that critical, and they want to fix that as soon as possible. And, both approaches are valid. They have different reasons for wanting to do so. Maybe one is League of Legends, and denial of service exploit is a big deal for them because it can take down their services, and they lose money as soon as their services go down, versus another company, where, sure, take down our web server all day. Like it's, no big deal for us.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
My fellow analyst at theCUBE, George Gilbert, wrote this paper a few weeks ago that was basically proposing that the next wave, we had software as a service, and then infrastructure as code, and all of these different things. He was saying that he thinks the future is services as software, and that you're basically going to be paying humans to build these different agentic AI services that you need into one software package, Adrian, to your point, for each enterprise, because no two businesses need the same thing. So really the labor is going to be in assembling the right different services of AI in the right packages, and that's where the human capital is really going to come in. And he kind of has this theory that the pricing is going to be outcomes based, right? So if you're packaging a marketing service, then the outcomes of what you're looking for. But it's interesting. I don't know that I'm 100% on board. He and I have a call, I think, next week to kick it around, but I think that's probably somewhere close to where we're headed, and that even if we can get agents to do things that humans do, you still need somebody to assemble those agents based on what each individual project needs or company needs, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting. My story number 3, speaking of horror movies, it's just a link to a LinkedIn post, and that LinkedIn post has a video embedded in it, and it's just showing off how good deepfakes are getting. Where like in the video they demonstrate all the things, like she waves her hand in front of her face, and she like pulls on her face and her cheek and stuff like that, and it keeps up with all of it. It's really, really convincing looking. So I just included that here because, as this stuff evolves, I think people just need to be aware of how good it's getting, what the current state of deepfakes are. Yeah. So be sure to check out that link. I can't show that video to you. You have to go click it. So make sure you click story number 3. And Jackie, we got time for one more. You want to tell us what's going on with Cheater Buster?
Oh yeah.
Sites?
So this is, if you found the T-Hack unsettling, the app that was hacked that was for women to share unpleasant experiences,
which was pulled off the Apple App Store, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's
Recently.
actually, but it's more popular than it's ever been. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But this is a 404 Media story about another app that's supposed to be to catch cheaters. So it uses facial recognition and does this reverse image search, basically, where it can find someone's Tinder profile. And so this may be great for, I think my husband's on Tinder and I want to take a picture of him while he's sleeping and find out. But if I'm a stalker and I have, an ex partner, or I'm just stalking somebody in general, I can use this to find their dating profiles. And I can do this to my coworkers. I can do this to, this is just not, it's something I don't think we always think about when we build these things, and people build them maybe with good intentions, but somebody's always going to find a way to exploit them. And anytime you're violating somebody's privacy for what you think is a good reason, you can use that to violate people's privacy for significantly worse reasons. And humans are terrible, so we always find those reasons. So it's a pretty long story. 404 is great. They do really, really good research, and they mentioned in here, some of the concerns, like with the Meta Ray-Bans that people have hacked to be able to do facial recognition. And so I can literally just walk around with my Ray-Bans on and my phone out, looking through people's Tinder profiles as they walk past me on the street. And I don't know that any of us necessarily signed up for that. So,
and they for that they used the site that I saw that started with this is called PimEyes. PIMEYES, and I think that's what they were using for the Meta Ray-Bans. But the big takeaway here is your image. If somebody can get a photo of you, that can be used as the search criteria for doing a search now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, didn't we do a story a couple weeks ago about how PimEyes was acquired, or the guy who works for PimEyes went to work for like a government agency? I don't want to misquote anything.
I don't recall that, but you can see my surprised face.
Yeah. So this is not great. And it's just interesting to think about where we're going to go in terms of privacy. I think I mentioned earlier, we haven't had a privacy law passed since 1988. And literally everything about the world has changed since then. And this is not something that corporations are incentivized to do. So this is going to require a massive user advocacy movement, like boycotts and voting for people who actually care about privacy of people and not corporate interests. And I don't know, I'm optimistic today, but this is a tide it's a really hard tide to turn.
We haven't passed privacy law, but damn it, in Ohio, we passed a law, or no, they haven't passed it. So this is a bill that's been introduced by a Buckeye State representative, Thaddeus Claggett. Of course, his name is Thaddeus Claggett. That seeks to ban human AI marriage.
Why?
Yes,
let those people marry a computer. You want them marrying other people?
Top priority. This is so important. It's way better than giving people healthcare.
Yeah. Well, I look at this the same way as I look at universal basic income. If you're somebody who really doesn't want to work, I would rather pay you to stay home than have you at In-N-Out screwing up my order. Like that's the way I look at this thing. Like, if you're somebody who's so unmarriable that you're going to marry a computer, good, because we don't want to force you on somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, it's just how quickly folks jump to try and ban something that doesn't harm anybody, that somebody does behind closed doors, versus, failing to pass legislation that prevents harm against people. Yeah. I don't know. Priorities. We need to educate politicians and lawmakers.
The interesting thing about that is, I think at the bottom of that story, there was another article that was linked where it was a number of people are upset at OpenAI because they've wrecked their AI boyfriends because of the changes in OpenAI from ChatGPT 4 to 5. Yeah, the model change. And there's an entire subreddit.
That would
my
never
boyfriend is at
That's
AI.
crazy.
And so there's a whole nother thing going on with that, which is just very interesting.
Oh, that is wild. Yeah, because of course it would, because you change the model, it's going to change how it responds. And if somebody built a person based on that foundation model, you just gave them a personality transplant. I can see why that would be upsetting to somebody, but it would have never even occurred to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is talking about AI psychosis, but I feel like these people have never been married to or dated anybody toxic, because I've had some exes that made me feel like I was going into psychosis. So like I literally read this whole thing and I'm like, there's not a good freaking excuse in here as to why this can't be a thing other than AI psychosis. And again, humans can give each other psychosis. So is it a tax thing? And that's what I always want. I'm like, obviously this man spent a long time hyper-focused on this, right? So why? Is it a taxes thing? Is it what's the actual motivation behind this? Because there's not really good justification in this.
Jackie, it just ain't right. If you want to marry your sister though, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
We can discuss that. That varies from state to state, by the way. But cousins, maybe, probably not sister. Hopefully not. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah. I think there are some states where it's like second cousin, and it's okay.
And I think there's states where you can marry someone as young as 14.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we should wrap this up before it gets too off the rails.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna get yanked off the air. We're gonna have to pull Jimmy Kimmel.
Stop button. All right. Thanks so much, Jackie and Sean, for joining me today. A lot of fun. A bit shorter on the news today, but still some interesting stuff in here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. Next week, we'll be talking to Joel Burleson Davis from Imprivata about transforming frontline worker workflows with passwordless access. We'll see you then, but don't go anywhere. We still have one segment coming after this. We've got two interesting interviews from Oktane 2025 that you're going to want to check out. Mendy Logan spoke with Connor Mulherin from TechSoup about cybersecurity in the nonprofit sector. And then she interviews Mike Poole on building good cybersecurity culture. That's all from us. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Identity and access management is hard. Whether it's administering identities, managing and controlling access, building, implementing, and enforcing policies, or governing the whole thing, IAM is often the realm of inefficient processes, bloated implementation timelines, and expensive and complex projects that struggle to solve problems. Thanks to Junto, those challenges can be a thing of the past. Junto delivers a full-stack IAM platform with a microservices architecture that delivers all of the functionality your unique environment demands, and an implementation model built for rapid and relevant time to value without requiring specialized staff and skills. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Junto.
Welcome back to our live coverage at Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan, and I am joined by Connor. I want to make sure I say it correctly. Mulherin, yes. And I am very excited to speak with you coming from TechSoup because you focus on the nonprofit sector.
We do. Yes, TechSoup is a nonprofit based in the Bay Area, but operating globally. And we serve 1.5 million nonprofits around the world. And our mission is to help those nonprofits access, adopt, and implement the tech resources that they need to fulfill their missions.
Okay, 1.5 million across the world. And a lot of times I think of it as dedicated, hardworking, determined individuals who have a goal and a mission, but not the resources. That's exactly right. Yeah. 90% of nonprofits around the world have small budgets, under $1 million. They are, per Okta's work report recently, the second targeted sector, just behind energy. And the difference in resources between the energy sector and the nonprofit sector is night and day. Right.
Nonprofits typically don't have a CTO. The majority of them don't have a dedicated full-time IT staff. Right. And this leads to challenges, obviously, in terms of cybersecurity. And so this comes to pass.
Real quick, I don't want to cut you off there, but do you feel like that is one of the biggest threats? Do you feel like that is the biggest challenge?
It's absolutely the biggest challenge. The threats themselves are similar across the private sector, right, of course, but the ability to fend and find these cybersecurity threats is much different for nonprofits. They simply aren't resourced to do the same. They aren't set up to the same. They're often mission driven and focus less, because of the size and resources they have, on IT security. Mm-hmm. They're often working in sensitive mission areas. They're often handling sensitive data sets and can be a target for cyber criminals and for sometimes state-sponsored actors to get at that data.
That actually, you read my mind, because that was part of my next question was, what do you see with nonprofits that makes them a special target that's separate from how other companies, corporations, and organizations are working?
Yeah, it's that they are vulnerable. And
right.
So, cybersecurity typically these days, particularly as supported by AI, is relatively indiscriminate. Just going out and looking for vulnerabilities, and nonprofits are more likely to have those vulnerabilities because there aren't policies in place. Perhaps the technical systems aren't patched and updated, and so they become easy targets.
It does. It's, and we have such a human tendency to, let's face it, if we step away from cybersecurity, we all look to do things as expediently as possible, right, usually, right? With the least amount of effort. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, man, that's hard, because now you have nonprofits who are putting forth tremendous effort in their mission, but they really aren't able to put forth effort to stay on top of where AI-driven changes are going.
That's right.
And I'm curious, with TechSoup, how long has TechSoup worked with Okta?
Right from the early stage, probably 2016, when Okta were establishing their social impact program under Aaron Battlefelter.
Yes.
So right from the start, TechSoup was validating nonprofits for their program, and we've been a partner ever since. Okta have been incredible funding partners of TechSoup on a number of different projects.
Nice.
So there's been a close partnership right there from the beginning.
And you had experience with other identity and access management providers prior to using Okta?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we have an IT department. We have solutions in place. I think Okta was a game changer for us in terms of centralizing access and centralizing ID management.
And since you mentioned the initiatives that Okta is very specific on maintaining, like you mentioned Aaron Battlefelter bringing up those initiatives, Is that portion of why you chose to work with Okta?
I think at the time, and in fact, I don't recall exactly how we came in contact, but in terms of Okta working with TechSoup, that was because we were a good and local partner in the Bay Area to help kind of think through and establish a social impact program.
Okay.
From TechSoup's perspective, Okta has incredibly generous, always has had a very generous nonprofit offers, 50 free seats to licenses for nonprofits to use. More recently, that also includes implementation support for free. So they're really a robust offering for nonprofits that can go from quite vulnerable to very well protected with support from Okta.
I've got to say that makes me feel relief, and I'm not even in the trenches with them handling that. So when you look at how you are integrating Okta for your clients, not only for your own organization, but then for all of your customers globally, what are some of the key things you've seen change in the robust nature of your clients?
Yeah, I think simply by having tools like that in place changes behaviors, closes gaps and vulnerabilities. So where were once sharing passwords because that was a good way to save on costs, you're kind of forced not to do that anymore. Where IT teams have had little visibility into what apps are being used and people bringing in their own devices, that changes under an Okta model where you have full visibility into all of that. And so it's just kind of bringing along nonprofits to where the private sector is going anyway, which is a great thing.
Makes me think of hiking, like whenever, no person left behind. No organization left behind.
Yeah. I mean, that's at the core of TechSoup's mission, is to level the playing field. And so particularly as it relates to cybersecurity, we're thinking about how do we make sure that nonprofits are not left behind. They deserve, I feel, the same level of protection because of the role they're playing in society. And they need to get that. And so offers like Okta enable that. But more broadly, in terms of nonprofits getting the IT leadership they need, TechSoup recently launched, like last week, with our great partners at Tech Impact, a virtual CTO for the sector initiative.
Really?
And so this is about fractional CTO access, deep consultation and assessment, and then ongoing support and community to help those nonprofits get exactly that. Access to IT leadership that they perhaps wouldn't have otherwise. And it's low cost. It's $500 a year.
Oh, wow.
$400 a year, actually.
Wow.
And with Okta's support, again, there's actually a subsidy program as well, where nonprofits that can't afford to pay that can get it for free as well.
Oh, my goodness. Now, please restate the name of the initiative or the program.
It's the virtual CTO for the nonprofit sector.
The virtual CTO for the nonprofit. Walk me through what happens when you start deploying that for your customers.
Well, it starts with a consultation with our great partners at Tech Impact. So nonprofits may be starting from scratch, maybe they have existing policies in place, but Tech Impact will go, and this is what they do. They go in and they will assess where you're at in terms of your security and generally your IT, and help you understand where you have vulnerabilities. And then that starts to pass over to TechSoup, where we have a marketplace with access to solutions that will help fill those gaps. And between the two of us and with an ongoing community support, a peer-to-peer community, so you're working with nonprofits who have these same experiences in a trusted environment. You can talk about the challenges and solutions that you've developed to some of these security issues. And we're basically, hand-holding along the way and making sure that, again, nonprofits don't get left behind.
What has been some feedback from those who adopted the virtual CTO?
So this is launched like a week ago.
It's just
so
a week ago.
we have our first.
But before launch, I kind of thought perhaps you'd done beta testing. I thought perhaps you had certain customers that you had already tried it out with.
It's been clear to us for a long time that this has been lacking enough. So we have our very large community. When we talk to them, this is what they're missing from their IT strategies. And so we're well aware of what was needed.
Right.
And so this is about putting the pieces of that response together and now getting it out there. And so we're very excited for folks to start to use it.
Oh, walk me through then what kind of training is offered?
The full gamut of security in terms of physical security, ID management, antivirus software, securing your infrastructure. And all of that is resources that TechSoup or Tech Impact together and with other third parties as well have developed. So this is really about bringing the collection of those things together in an organized way so that nonprofits can have a structured, multifaceted approach to their IT management.
Now, with your background, and I've got to say, it's very nice to speak with somebody who has been as a 20-year tenure at the same organization, and now you've seen since 2016 working with Okta. And in this time frame, from 2016 till now, and with the advent of AI and all of that, what are things that you look at or that your organization looks at and thought, wow, in 2016, I never would have assumed this would happen?
Yeah, well, in 2016, nobody or very few people were thinking about AI and the possibility of what that would bring, both in terms of threats and cybersecurity. So obviously things are accelerated greatly and sophisticated as well. But I think probably the biggest thing for nonprofits is the volume of attack now that's possible. Very easy for a bad actor to spin up a platform that, again, indiscriminately is looking for vulnerabilities and going out there. On the other side of things, of course, AI is helping to defend against this as well. And so security teams now have tools, Okta and others, where they can detect and react to threats in a way that kind of cuts through the noise and allows them to focus with automation on solving problems as they come up in real time.
And in this time then, so from 2016 to now, how has Okta really helped your own organization? Forget your customers for a moment.
Yeah.
They're always in mind, but let's focus on what happened for you traditionally in using Okta.
Yeah, we like many nonprofits, we're using a huge variety of different apps. Different teams would use different software around the world. Even within kind of our locations, different groups were using certain tool for communication. Another group would use a similar but different tool. Gradually, in bringing all of our apps under one access management solution with Okta, we've brought that together. We've got some control to the chaos. And so when a new employee comes on board, we can very quickly stand them up with the access they need, appropriate access at appropriate privilege levels. And also when people leave, we can very quickly, that same day, remove that access as well. Incredibly important, particularly for nonprofits who have a lot of turnover, typically work with a lot of volunteers. So you need to be able to very quickly, TechSoup too, need to be able to very quickly react to changes in your staff, whatever they may be. And that's what Okta since then has brought for us. And we're very excited and listening to Todd in the keynote there about how AI is now treated as an identity in that whole framework as well. And so AI agents rather become a person, just like a customer or a staff member, and is treated as such. What do they have access to? Well, let's make sure that's appropriate and can be shut down as appropriate as well. So I think the evolution of Okta, both generally and also in terms of how they help nonprofits, has been really incredible, inspiring even for others. And so we've been very lucky to be part of that.
Oh, I am so happy to hear that. And again, since my heart holds nonprofits near and dear, and I think it's intriguing. I feel like it's incredibly intriguing to figure out how to maximize your budget and do it in a creative and intelligent way. Mm-hmm. I am so glad you were able to be here and join us, and I thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Manny. Really appreciate chatting with you.
You're very welcome. And to our lovely audience, thank you for joining us. Now, to view all of our coverage, please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thanks again for the conversation.
Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock.
Welcome back to our live coverage of Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan, and I am joined right now by Mike Poole, who is the Director of Cybersecurity at Werner Enterprises. Now, before we launch into this, what is Werner Enterprises?
It's a trucking company.
Exactly.
Absolutely. We have about 10,000 trucks at any given time on the road. It's incredible.
And as we were speaking about right before this, critical infrastructure is near and dear to my heart, as is anything mechanical, anything having to do with trucks, trains, planes, automobiles.
There you go. That was a great movie, by the way, back in the day.
I mean, that was a long time ago, but yes.
Yeah, back in the day.
So right now, how often do you or your team interact with individuals who don't realize that there's a technological advancement going on in trucking?
Well, I tell you, we've got a lot of folks, about 4,500, sometimes up to 5,500, depends on the season, of headquarters associates. Most of them, it takes a little bit for you to tell them that, hey, we're a high-tech company, we're a target, we're a critical infrastructure, we have to protect it, and these are the things that you can do to help us do that, which is kind of the root of the cybersecurity culture, right? It has to bring it to that end user, give them the why, express to them, hey, this is how important it is, why it's important, so that then when you come back in and set policies, they don't look at that and say, well, that sucks. I don't want to be, held hostage by the cyber police, right?
Right.
And we don't want to do that either. We want to be a partner. We want to enable the business. But I think there's just a misconception out there that cyber defense professionals are the community of no. For a while, I think we were the community of no.
I agree.
But I'd say over the last 5 to 10 years, I've noticed a whole shift of, hey, we're not a community of no, because we recognize that every time we said no, the user still did what they were going to do. And it just presented more vulnerabilities, which is more work for us. It took us away from what we need to do. Said, okay, we need to do this differently. Let's figure out what they need and see if we can offer a better solution that is also secure. And if not, we just say you got to assume some risk, and here's what it's going to cost in risk, right? And sometimes business processes, they just can't handle whatever cybersecurity control that we wanted to place on them, because maybe it's older technology, and it just can't handle it. And older coding can't handle the next, latest and greatest server load, etc. So I would say...
Wait, you're saying COBOL and Fortran aren't ready for AI?
No. But Fortran was really my favorite language back in the day, yeah. You could almost write it like normal language, and it understood what you were saying. So yeah, I figured out early on that programming wasn't my thing.
No.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze for me. You work for hours and hours. You compile your code and it comes back as an error somewhere, and it's because a comma was missing somewhere deep in the code.
Exactly.
And it takes you many more hours to find it, and then you find it and you click, compile, and it's done in a millisecond. Well, that was anticlimactic.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I kind of veered away from that, which is closely related to hacking. Hacking, that's programming too. And I took a couple classes in the Air Force about hacking. And we got a chance to do a capture the flag event, which I found was fun,
yes,
but not to the point that I want to do it every day.
Okay.
Now
see, and I have I don't do them all the time at all, but I always I have a saying when I'm with my hacking friends or groups or something, that there's always blood in CTF.
Yeah.
If you take it deep enough, there is always. You do it at up levels you to have skin in the game in whatever security procedures you are undertaking, right? And with that, you were talking about the compiling, the missing comma, that one little thing that completely destroyed your entire end game from happening. How and why is that similar to, say, an individual in an organization or within your organization where the security culture bypasses them and they become an issue? Do you have that happen?
Certainly. It's just human nature to click on things on the internet, click on things in email.
Right.
Because something about that, either the site or the email was so entertaining to them or enticing that they just couldn't help it. Oh, I want to see that.
Right.
Whatever it wants to be. And it's funny, with the advent of AI, your computer seems to know what you're looking for. If I'm shopping for vehicles, I suddenly get inundated on Facebook or whatever with advertisements. And so that's how they do these phishing campaigns. They recognize that, you know what? Well, for me, I'm into cars, right? Car parts, hot rodding, car shows, all that. So it'll probably try and entice me with, hey, we've got a car show coming up and such. Click here to register.
Right.
Yeah, well, some people, I'm going to do that. Now, as a cybersecurity guy, I'm thinking, no, I'm definitely not clicking that. But I'll just go over here on Google and just look them up and find out if they're legitimate or not. And then find a site that's not sponsored, because that's also a dangerous piece, right?
I do exactly the same thing. Like pretty much any ad. I don't know that I've ever clicked on an ad knowingly, but then I'm more security conscious. I'm not the individual, the random user.
And that's exactly what we want all of our users to become.
Exactly.
We want them to have that spidey sense that, I don't think I should click that. Let me just go out here and figure it out on my own without using that link, right?
Yes. So how does that translate to what you have dug into in creating security culture?
Yeah, so honestly, the culture was already there. I've only been there for 2 years.
Okay.
Almost 2.5. But what I recognized was that we can always improve, we can always grow. So my job really is about maintaining momentum, building momentum even, making it better as we proceed through, this technological transition from on-premise to the cloud for Warner Enterprises. Comes with a whole new challenge when it comes to cybersecurity. And I've got an entire team devoted to figuring those things out, And so if you can get the average user to then fill in the blank, because technology can only take you so far against cyber, threats, they find a way in. Generally, it's social engineering and phishing, things like that. So if you can educate them, or at least empower them to make a different decision because they have now some sort of a contextual knowledge from what we give them, the why, which is so important. We give them the why. This is why you're a target. And maybe your job doesn't seem like it would be, but the company as a whole is, and the adversary is going to look for every opportunity to get in, and it could be you, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a long process, but we try and do a lot of creative things. I've got a couple of guys on my team that, their creative genius is fantastic. A Cyber Awareness Month, last 2024. So yeah, last fall, they went out dressed as, fishermen, fly rod fishermen.
Okay.
Net, everything.
Okay.
They had a bag of Swedish fish, and they had these little cards that had 3 cybersecurity principles we really wanted to, get people to read.
Okay.
And internalize, so to speak, right? And as they went around the headquarters in person,
was it through the office,
all dressed up like this,
right.
They got a lot of attention. You flip on Swedish fish, and then you show them the card, and you talk to them about cybersecurity. And when you do it face to face like that, it's something that most people just don't expect to see. They know about the click through the cybersecurity training I know before, and it's a hassle to them. They're not really learning anything from it, but they really enjoyed that approach. I got so much feedback of that was really neat. They just came up and talked to me right at my cubicle, and gave me a Swedish fish, and it's just memorable for them. So that's one of the creative ways we do it. Otherwise, we've got our corporate media site that we put public service announcements on. I think that's how I would describe them. Okay. And it's based on whatever cyber threat is hitting the news, and especially hitting transportation in the news. Then we'll take a look at that. So like deepfakes, phishing, all those topics that our adversaries are leveraging. Then we say, okay, how do we inform the headquarters, associates, watch out for this. This is how you can inoculate yourself against something like this, right? So it's constant. It takes a lot of energy to do it. And like I said, I've got a couple of guys on the team that are devoted to that. That's what they do because it's so important.
Okay, I've got to say, I'm kind of envying their jobs right now. And what about gamification then? It sounds to me like that would go right along with
it does. So, and that's been a request from our CIO to get some gamification in there for the training to make people, I guess, interested in it, pique their interest a bit. And so we're doing a few things. One of the things this year we're doing is find Waldo. That's the theme behind it, right?
Okay.
And so what we've asked them to do is you got to go out to this area, generally like an IT policy or something like that, and find whatever word it was on the 5th sentence, whatever it is, right? And then they put that in. They entered in the our social site, media site, Workiva is what we use. And then at the end of the month, whoever answered the most and in the quickest fashion, well, they get an iPad or a Chromebook, something like that, right? So a little bit of gamification in the sense that people used to do that on the cereal box all the time. Where's Waldo? You trace through it, right? Now they're doing the scavenger hunt. So it's kind of fun. So
a scavenger hunt. And the end result is that they understand to look at a URL more clearly.
They do, yeah. And then when they say, I don't know where this policy is, well, you do now because you clicked on it, right? And we asked you to do it and you found it, So
how do you make things that can be so boring? I've got to say, sometimes it's very boring.
It's pretty dry.
about access controls and
yeah.
whatnot. How do you find it, make it more entertaining, aside from what you've already said?
Like some of that is the personality piece, right? When they see cybersecurity professionals as other human beings, I think we get through a little bit better. So when we go out in person and talk to them, when I join staff meetings, and I'm excited about it, right? So I can't help but bring excitement to the meeting. Say, hey, check this out. This is really cool. And a lot of them are thinking, your definition of cool doesn't match mine.
No.
But, they get that I'm excited about it. And pretty soon it is a little contagious, right? And if we can get, our directors, managers, and C-suite folks to be on our side, buy in on it, that's a big win, because then they advocate to the rest of their team. This is why it's important. And as far as the culture we have at Werner, there's not a single town hall that we have that cybersecurity isn't mentioned.
Oh, nice.
So Derek Leathers, our CEO, he often talks about cybersecurity. Our president, Nathan Mescott, he talks about cybersecurity when he gets in front of us. And of course, Dara, my boss, the CIO, he's always talking about cybersecurity. And because he's passionate about it. And we are too. And we want to protect Werner the best we can. So yeah, we get them all involved.
That's perfect. I mean, I go back to a little bit of a different situation, but prior to being around cybersecurity, I was in construction, and a lot of times on construction sites. And every morning there would be the morning safety meeting. You would have the morning protocols of every morning. They'd have 5, 10, 15 minutes of different safety subjects that needed to be brought up constantly. And we found a lot of times now on construction sites, it was either usually a novice or an exceedingly advanced journeyman or a skilled craftsman that would have the problems.
Yeah. One of them doesn't know better. The other one says, I do know better, and I'm just going to do it this way.
Exactly.
And then they figure out that, oh, maybe I didn't.
I stood on this ladder on a bucket one time and was fine. So
Yep. Oh, I get you.
So are there particular things you find useful in helping train your C-suite, like that experienced organizational individual versus somebody who's a novice to your organization? How do you balance both sides and then account for different learning styles?
Well, we do have to customize our educational material, depending on who it is. And I'll give you an example of our phishing campaigns most recently. We use KnowBe4 for the majority of the population, but KnowBe4 also gives you the capability to customize whatever that is going to be. You can write the message.
Right.
And so Dara, our CIO, says, whatever you guys are sending to the rest of the C-suite on behalf of our CEO, he said they don't fall for it because that's not how he writes. We have these salutations and greetings and nice language. He said that's just not how he communicates. He will literally communicate in one line, no introduction, no closing, and that's how he does it. He's very efficient. He's got a lot of work to do, so he's not going to take a lot of time to make fluff. So what do? We have a theme that happened to be going on that month that we know all the C-suite's involved in, and they crafted a specific message from Derek Leathers, one line, his tone, everything, and we got every one of them. That brings it home. That's what you're talking about. The expert way out here, they know the impact of the company, etc. That's why they're so concerned about it, but yet they got comfortable and clicked it, right? And now they're not going to. Now they're going to look at everything twice, right? They got to experience it. So sometimes it's just that custom approach. Sometimes it's just bringing up stats that are, quite frankly, impressive. If to anybody, 146 billion events every quarter is what our SIM ingests. That's a ton of events, right? That shows how much our industry is being attacked.
Right.
It could be all kinds of levels on that, right? We're not saying it's a nation state doing all that. But the fact that our tools and sensors caught it, that should be encouraging, because the C-suite knows how much money we're spending, right? And they want to see the return on that investment. And another term that I was recently introduced to is return on mitigation, which is a much easier picture to draw, right? Because that's our world. We mitigate, we try and prevent, knowing that we're not going to prevent everything, but we're going to do our darnest to do so. And then when that one thing or whatever comes through, now we're going to respond. And so then we have our instant response piece that comes in. And so every quarter we do tabletop exercises, and once a year, maybe twice a year, we'll bring the whole C-suite in, and they get to play along, because if there's a ransom event, they're going to be playing. They're going to be the ones making a decision. Who do we communicate? How do we communicate? Are we going to pay it? What are we going to do, right? They have to make those decisions. So we just go through mental exercises. This is how you do it. So that's another creative approach to get that expert out here, to get involved here and appreciate what we're doing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Mike, for sharing this. And sure. I have to believe that our audience will find key inspiration from ideas that you've brought, and I hope they look into your presentation from yesterday as well.
All right. Well, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please, to view all of our Oktane 2025 coverage, visit securityweekly.com/Oktane.